Hey everybody, good morning. Mestre Vibes Podcast. Welcome to episode 49. Big 49. I can't believe that we're here. It is amazing. And it's all thanks to you guys. Okay, first today, I want to start the podcast by saying last week I wasn't able to put out anything because I was so busy with events. We had the kids' carnival, which all the toys and everything that we got for the kids to get as prizes was sponsored by Patreon. So you guys directly made the event amazing. You can check that out on my Instagram feed, and you can see how great that event was. And I want to thank you all for making that possible. Like I said, I'm using some of the money for some of the events to make them even better, especially for kids, community, and capoeira. Today, I want to get here because it's been 2 weeks. I want to do a little bit of introspection, right? Reflection. I think reflection is such an important thing to do as a mestre and as a person, and constantly, seeing how other people see me and seeing how that makes me feel, but also how that makes me think and on how I do things and how I can improve constantly. And it's nice because I generally only listen to people who I know have things going on. If someone doesn't really have anything going on in their life and they criticize me, I tend to just ignore them, not in a negative way, but the same way, like if somebody in a coffee shop who doesn't know what they're doing or this is behind the counter or whatever, and they're telling me how to run a capoeira business. So if you're not somebody who I respect, I tend not to listen. And that not only keeps me going forward, but also makes a lot of sense with not wasting time. And today I want to start with two things, and I won't say who said all this stuff, but we'll leave it at that. So I got one email, and one of a really good friend, a new friend, said that I really am good at inspiring the people in Thailand. Everyone is so inspired. If you've been looking at any of the stuff from Thailand, you can see that the Thai capoeira students that we have of Zuador have been really pushing hard and really dedicating themselves to re-energizing capoeira Zuador in Thailand and moving forward. And of course, the compliment was, in no small part, thanks to my energy, that my energy is very contagious. So I want to say thank you. And also, it was said that you can feel the energy in everything I do, the passion on all my interviews and everything I do. A couple of weeks ago, I did another interview with Mestre Vibes in Bahia, and always the feeling of humility and gratefulness and just luck, not luck, but how fortunate I am that I have all these great people around me. To be invited onto Mestre Vibes' podcast is always a blessing. If you watched or heard it, you know how he is. He's like a father to me in capoeira, and he loves to make the most of the interviews him. But I love being there, and I love contributing, and I love being a part of it. And it's really a blessing to always be able to contribute, not only in the capoeira world in Brazil in Portuguese, but also in English and sometimes in Japanese. The second compliment I also got was Contra Mestre Cobrinha had posted on his page, and I thought it was really sweet because it's in Thai. So I'm doing two things at one time. Give me a second here. And I'll have the translation. And what he had said was really something that I reflected on, because it's something that I really feel is the exact same meaning for me, and how I am coming back to a full circle with my relationship with Mestre Vibes. And I'll continue talking about this and how this leads to my comparison of Mestre Vibes and Mestre Accordion in my life. So Contra Mestre Cobrinha posted, a picture of me and said, this is my teacher in my life. I've had many capoeira teachers, and Mestre Sucuri is one of them. And most importantly, that he and I are on the same page or on the same path right now of capoeira and how we see things and how we're moving forward and how I match his capoeira growth at this moment. And he says he can compare me to an encyclopedia of capoeira. And generally, especially of non-Brazilian people, but that I have so much knowledge. And I think, just because I'm not Brazilian, I know people who have put the work in and put the time in and the reading and a lot of the effort that goes into capoeira to have that knowledge and research, right? Whenever I can't answer something, he always says that I can answer everything, but if I can't, it's fine, but deep. And, I'm always talking about just because somebody does capoeira doesn't mean they're philosophical or intellectual about the art. So it's really lovely because a lot of times I get to talk with people in more profound ways. And it's important to take the time and always understand that capoeira now is all over the world. Contra Mestre Vibes says, not as a native speaker, sometimes it takes a while and that I'm very good at explaining. But I think that's also a skill. You need to understand not everyone is going to learn or has the same language ability. So we need to be patient. And something I really am enjoying is using the AI tools to translate, to organize, to fix, and to do a lot more. On a side note, capoeira videos that I've been making recently in Japanese to educate my students is something I'm also going to be doing in Thai because Contra Mestre Vibes is going to check the Thai from the translation, and then I'll make the videos for the Thai community as well. I'm always somebody, I think this is something I haven't said in years, but a lot of people who are close to me know there are two kinds of people. There are people who criticize and do nothing, and they're just gossiping. The difference is I do criticize, or more before now, not so much, but when I've always been someone who's been very critical, but I'm also someone who's constantly moving forward, doing, right? So if I say, there's no, education, information on capoeira in Japanese, then I create it. Then I make it, right? People need to. I did the Capoeira University a few years ago, and a lot of that was so, great because people got a lot more profound understanding of capoeira culture and capoeira history and Afro-Brazilian and Afro-Latino history and the slave trade, things that directly, add to what we do as capoeira teachers, and it's very important. And I really appreciate the different compliments I get, and I'm someone who can't take a compliment without trying to objectively analyze it. If someone says, okay, you're always doing things, but then if I think to myself, wait a minute, you didn't produce anything this week, so I jump right back on it and get to it as best as I can. So that leads to me constantly putting out things all the time. Today's episode is no different. I'm just putting things out, having my cup of coffee, enjoying talking to my fantastic community, and just keep moving forward. The other day when Contra Mestre Vibes was here, we were talking, and we were going over some interesting things, and this is what I want to bring it together, is how now, I would say 5 years ago when we talked, his perception of capoeira was something of very, how can I say, when I've always said that do not put friendship before capoeira, or I never put social before capoeira. I am happy when I can make connections and friends and family through capoeira, but I never put capoeira after social necessity. For example, one thing I said, and the quality of capoeira that I see in Asia is incredibly not low, but imagine people learning something and only learning a little and then really training it and getting really good at it. And over 15, 20 years, they're really, really good at basic capoeira, but a lot of the vivencia, a lot of the things you need to learn, a lot of things that need to be told, a lot of things that need to be discussed aren't discussed. And I could see it in the movement, if that makes sense. For example, I see a lot of people sometimes playing capoeira, and I'm like, they're like a really, 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 really good 3-year student. And what I mean by that, they got to about 3 years worth of knowledge, and because no one has helped them, or they weren't able to understand the nuances to get better, they're really, really good at playing like a third year student, but with 15 years of practice of those 3 years. And when I was talking to Contra Mestre Cobrinha, we were talking about how some people don't have they don't develop. Even though they've been doing capoeira for 20 years, they lack flow, they lack timing, they lack music. I see a lot of videos on TikTok, especially here in Japan, and I'm watching people play capoeira. And it's funny because I've mentioned this before. When I used to do DVDs, you can take the volume or mute the DVD, and no matter what music you put on it, like let's say rock, hip hop or whatever, jazz or whatever, I will be on time in the video. It looks like the music was made for the video. Why? Because I'm on time. I'm swinging on the music. And one of the biggest things I see is so many people here in Japan are teaching capoeira, and they have no understanding of rhythm or flow. And it's unfortunate because you can see that in the students, and these are students who've been playing capoeira for many years, and I kind of feel it's a discredit to the students. And a lot of times you can't say anything because it's like learning to dance with no rhythm and timing. And I'm not saying that's an ethnic thing or a racial thing. I'm saying people who are teaching should know that. There is a samba woman here that I've known, I met a couple times, and she's Japanese, and she could be a samba queen in Brazil. Her rhythm, her flow, her body mechanics, her swing is amazing. And one time when I was doing a show and she was there at the same time, I'd asked her, how did she develop it? And she literally said, when I went to Brazil, I realized that was the problem with Japanese samba dancers, is they're not learning the way Brazilians swing and the flow and the energy and everything. They're not learning how do Brazilians move. So they're just copying, and it becomes very mechanical. My godmother, the godmother of samba in Japan, used to joke with my wife and I and say, she calls it the kani samba. Kani means crabs. It's like crabs just waddling back and forth. And people might say, that's mean to say whatever. But yeah, if you're going to step into somebody else's arena, you're going to get criticized, especially if it's horrible. So it's not that I'm always against here. It's just I'm saying, guys, people need to learn timing and distance. And I see a lot of crashing on videos. I see a lot of people who, even if they're in the roda, it seems like they're not playing with the other person by themselves in the roda because they're just, I think, overthinking their combinations. And I mean, take a look at some of the videos of the capoeira in Asia, and you'll see that it's not really flowing together. And this is something that I'm going to be doing a lot of workshops. Next month, I'm in Hamamatsu. And one of the big things I'm going to do right at the beginning of the workshop is I'm going to ask the Brazilian community, because it'll be 99% Brazilians at my workshop, maybe 100%. So how do Brazilians move? What is the cultural and the musical and the culturally musical movement of capoeira? For example, I've told people, that person is not Brazilian. They go, that person looks Brazilian. Generally, it's because the person is black skin or something. They say, that person is Brazilian. I said, no, that person's not Brazilian. That person's probably American, black, playing capoeira for a long time. And they go, how do you know? And I said once, this is a true story, where I said, because the person is doing a hip-hop count in capoeira. And people ask me, what is that? And I said, well, because there is a samba count. Brazilian movement doesn't start the one on the foot down. And people have asked me, and I said, well, my Uncle Francis and a bunch of, like old school samba people said, no, Brazilians start here. And there's a basic point, and I'll be doing that at the workshop and talking about how Brazilians move culturally. and how it affects music and their movement. And this is a very big thing because sometimes people think everyone moves the same, but it doesn't. There's ways that we move that are culturally influential on what we do. So that'll be fun. Now, coming back to what Cobrillo says, so 5 years ago I had mentioned that he always said, people also need to have the social, people need to do this. And it was really like, I was like, okay, I understand. But the other day when he was here, he was like, I sometimes feel that the other capoeira groups are kind of telling him not to come around because he's criticizing, because he's starting to sound more like me. And for example, why are you doing that queixada with no power or not trying to hit the other person, or just basic capoeira things that we do in the capoeira world? Like if I said this to any capoeira student of mine or any capoeira student who's been trained under somebody well trained, then they're gonna say, "Oh, you're right. Okay, got it. Oh, you're right. Got it." And I've been all over the world teaching capoeira workshops and performing and doing, and these are the things that I'm going to be showing next month at the workshop are things that are standard in capoeira all around the world. So hopefully I'll be able to share that too in Thailand this year. Tentatively, Thailand is going to be the weekend of November 23rd and 24th. That's when I'm planning to go with my wife and kids, and we will be visiting Capoeira Zoador in Thailand. Now, back to the thing is, so Contra Mestre Cobrinha, seeing his desire to improve capoeira, and being taught how to look at capoeira, being taught how to analyze capoeira, he's seeing the stagnation of capoeira in Thailand. And that's something I also see a lot in Korea. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm saying, me making a cake at home versus a professional cake maker. You guys can complain all you want and say that's not right. Everyone has their own way. Yeah, but I'm never going to make, a 5 foot high, a 2 meter high wedding cake, okay? Look, it's not going to happen. I can dedicate myself. I can learn the craft. I can learn the trade. And the one thing that I really, nothing puts me off more, or I would even say nothing I hate more than when people devaluate how difficult and how much time and energy, I've put into capoeira, or people who legitimately put time and energy into capoeira. Contra Mestre Vaquero and we can speak in Portuguese, and his Portuguese is fantastic. Remember, his new single is out, and the new CD is coming out next month, and listen to it. He's amazing. I'm a big fan. There's different levels, and I was telling Cobrinha, how much do you need? He was asking, how much Portuguese should I learn? I go, to sit down with somebody like Mestre Boa Gente, Mestre Acordeon, Contra Mestre Vaquero, would probably take you 5 years of intensive Portuguese study, because you would have to learn Brazilian Portuguese vocabulary. Then on top of that, you would have to learn capoeira language, which is very specialized. It's almost like, because I've been with Brazilians and they're like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I said, because they don't speak. It's like going into an engineering conference and you're lost, because the way they talk, the vocabulary, the things they talk about are so specific to capoeira that you would need to learn that language too. You would need to get a PhD in capoeira English, in capoeira Portuguese. And I said, look, it's in the past, people don't have access or they don't have the ability. But now, for example, if Mestre Boa Gente, Mestre Acordeon, we're talking in Portuguese, Contra Mestre Vaquero, or I'm using this as an example, could translate. Maybe it wouldn't have the same exact feeling, 99.9% only, but you could still get the information. It's about patience, communication, respect. When an old master talks even to a new capoeira person, a lot of times the new capoeira person won't understand, even if they're Brazilian, because they don't speak the same language of capoeira. And that's something that's very specific to capoeira, just like anything else. And this reminded me of, Cobrinha's evolution. I don't know if I'm a positive or negative, but he's seen it more like, wow. He had mentioned that he's trying to get Gojira, one of our main students in Thailand, to understand like the more semi-pro or professional side of capoeira and how it works not only in a business way, but in a professionally organized way. And I think that's a fantastic idea. And I see how now that he's like, okay, I've got to put this together so it works. When you put the social first, it'll never work out. Why are there so many splintered groups and people just pretending to be nice to each other all over the world? It's only when they put social before the capoeira. There's an old expression in capoeira. You may not like me, but you will respect me. And that's the way I live my life. I don't care if people like me or don't like me, but they will respect me by my hard work and effort. And it's funny because people will always ask me about racism in capoeira. And I say, well, maybe the first 10, 15 years you get it, but after you've put 10 years in as a mestre, after you've done, all the work I've done as a mestre of capoeira in Portuguese and English and Japanese, most Brazilians, 100% of any Brazilian, even if someone says they don't like me or I find out that person doesn't like me, I still find out, but they respect what I do. They respect my hard work. Unless there's some weirdo or something. But it's a very important thing to remember that capoeira is about building the capoeira, not about building the social. The social is something that can grow along with it, but I've noticed that if you grow the social on the same level or before the capoeira, that's what always leads to problems. It always leads to conflict within the group, cordon devaluation, cordon overvaluation, who pays, who's too intimate, who feels they can say whatever they want, who feels that they belong at a higher level than they can. And this happens because you give people the ability. This isn't a democracy in capoeira. You do listen to your friends. You do listen to the people who you respect, who have put the time in. If contra mestre Jacaré, contra mestre Disco, contra mestre Taz, contra mestra Kaininana, my wife, if mestre Linguist, if they formado Apito, formado Stefan, right? If Pantera, if any of them even start talking, I listen. Because they are qualified, because they know me well enough to know how I am and how I deal with things and why I'm doing with this. And every single one of those people now thinks, you're right, Mestre, capoeira first. And that's what they like. We've built a loving family relationship in Zoador because I always put capoeira first. I have no capoeira graduated students above blue cordon. I only have brothers and sisters and family in capoeira. And that's the way I wanted to do it. And that's what works. Contra Mestre Cobrinha has evolved, so has I. I see him now on the path that I was building my first big relationship with Mestre Boa Gente. Mestre Boa Gente came into my life at a perfect time. He helped me grow. And it's funny because he always says, I only tell you the mistakes I made. And I said, no, Mestre, you tell me the mistakes. You tell me about the rasteiras you got and how you got back up. And as a good mestre, as a good father, you're always telling me, filho, which means son, be careful of that. You're going to get that rasteira. You're going to get that sweep in life. You're going to get this in capoeira. You're going to get that in capoeira. Oh, you're doing this well. Oh, this is such a good thing. He's giving me the positive and cautionary advice that most of the time I know, but just like when I was in entrepreneurial theory in my master's program, it's different when someone who has experience or knowledge says something so simple and you realize, wow, it's really that simple. So I told him, Contra Mestre Cobrinha, just go to the roda and enjoy. By leadership, by being who you are, by playing the capoeira you play, by being as amazing as you can be, by up-leveling, then raise everybody up. Raise everybody up through capoeira. Raise everybody up with passion. Show. Don't criticize. I always say, look, I don't go to other rodas where I know that I'm going to be teaching. Why? Because this is my job. I didn't come to Japan to teach capoeira for free. And if I have to teach, not advise, not mentor, not teach, in a lot of cases I say I would have to, it's just work, right? And, who's going to go to work for free? Okay, guys, that's where it's going to happen today. It's a bit long, but I'm catching up for 2 weeks. Guys, thank you for joining me. Again, email me if you have any questions. I miss and love you guys all. You guys are the best. Let's get in here. Tomorrow night is Purple Night at DJ Party. DJ Tomoe, she has got a Prince vinyl album. So be here or be square. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. Master Sukuri, Mestre Vibes, Tokyo, Japan. Episode number 49.